Hi, this is Krista at the Secret Yarnery. Today we are making part 9 of the Secret Stitches Cal, the Coronation Square. You will love making this square so much. It is a 2-row repeat, so it's a little bit different than the others. And it is super easy to remember what you're doing. We're going to be doing 1 row of heads and 1 row of crowns all the way up until our square is complete. You can use the same color yarn for all of your squares and just admire the different stitches. Or you can use a different color of the same type of yarn for each of your squares. If you'd like a written pattern to go along with this tutorial, it's available over on my website, secretyarnery.com, as well as written patterns for all of the other squares that we have already finished. I'll put a link to that in the description box down below. To make the coronation square, you can use whatever yarn you're using for your other squares. I am using Savor from Ice Yarns. It is a 4 worsted weight acrylic. I will be using a 6mm crochet hook. You'll need a needle for sewing in your ends, a pair of scissors, and just to keep track of your chain, 4 stitch markers. So let's get started. Start the coronation square, we're just going to make a slip knot any which way you normally do. Shrink that down and put it onto your hook. And we're going to chain, and now chain 39. 1, 2, 3, 4, 38, and 39. So there is my 39 chains. So we want to roll our cute little V's over onto the side. We want to look for these back loops. The first back loop is hiding right underneath our working yarn. It's right up here. So there's 1. We want to work into the second, which is right here. So push your hook in, just get that back loop right onto your hook and make 1 single crochet. If you'd rather work into the front of your chain like normal, you're welcome to do that as well. Chain 1. Skip 1, so now we're just going to work into this second chain. So we're going to skip this first chain and work right into the second chain, the second back loop right here. And make 1 single crochet. Chain 2, and into the same stitch, that same chain right there, 1 more single crochet. So we're going to make a little lump, a little bump right there. Chain 2, and now this is the repeat for working into your chain. We're going to skip 2 stitches or 2 chains. So we're going to skip 1 and 2. We're going to work into the third chain right here. So into the third chain, 1 single crochet, chain 2, and 1 single crochet. Chain 2, skip 2, 1 single crochet into the third chain. And if we're working into our back loops, the chains are a lot easier to see because they're these little raised bumps, little camel bumps. So there's 1, 2, we want to work into the third. So into the third, 1 bump. So single crochet, chain 2, and 1 single crochet. Chain 2, skip 2 into the third. We want to make a bump. So single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet all into the same chain. And don't worry if your work is all curling up and looking weird. Mine does too. It's going to straighten out in the next row. So now keep working along, doing a chain 2, skip 2, and into the third stitch, do 1 single crochet, chain 2, and 1 single crochet. So that's your bump into the third stitch, chain 2, skip 2, and into the third stitch. We're going to do that again. So pause the video and keep working your way along, doing a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, and a chain 2, skip 2 to get to the next chain. So pause the video and I'll meet you when you get to the end of this row. When you get close to the end of your row, we're going to keep working as close as we can. So I'm still going to skip 2 and make my bump. into that third chain. So here's my last bump, single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet. And now we just have 2 stitches left, 2 little camel bumps. So you want to chain 1, skip 1, and we're going to work into that very last chain right here. So we're skipping 1 chain and working into the last. And that is going to be 1 single crochet into that last chain. 1 single crochet. So that finishes row 1. So now we're going to start row 2. That is the head round. We're making heads. So chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. Now reach your hand underneath your working yarn, grab your work, and give it a turn. And that's going to help our chain show up in the right direction when we're working into it at the end of our rows. So now we're going to be working into the center of each of these bumps that we made, just into that chain 2 space, all the way along, just for the bumps. So into the first bump, the center, and you can wiggle your finger to find where that is. Wrap your yarn and make 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Just like that. Wrap your yarn into the center of the next bump, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. So for this row, we're not chaining, we're not doing anything, we're just doing 3 double crochets into the center of each bump, working our way along. So 3 double crochets into the center of the next bump. 1, 2, and 3. So pause the video and keep working your way along, doing a set of 3 double crochets into each of these bumps, just the center of those chain 2s, the little bumps, all the way along till you reach the end of your row. So at the end of your row, it looks like this. You have done your 12 heads, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And you have this little blump, this little blip kind of hanging down and being a bit weird. So for that one, I'll show you where we're going to work in. Right down here is our single crochet, this kind of big loop on the edge. So we want to go in, make sure you get 2 strands of that stitch on your hook. And we're just going to wrap our yarn and do 1 double crochet. That's just going to finish our row and give a nice straight edge. So that finishes the head round. Now we're going to move on to the crowns. We're going to put a crown on each of these heads. So to start the crown row, chain 1, reach your hand under your working yarn and turn your work. Right into this very first stitch right here, we're going to make 1 single crochet. Right here, 1 single crochet, and chain 1. So that is how we're going to start every crown row. Now we're going to skip 1 stitch and work right into the center of our head, or the center stitch of our set of 3 double crochets, right here. So into the center stitch, we're going to do our crown, which is single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, chain 2, and jump. So now we're going to jump straight over to the center of the next head, this center stitch. So we're going to skip 2 stitches and work into the third. If you're a counting stitch kind of person, put your hook into the 3rd stitch and do your crown. So single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet. Those are our crowns. Chain 2 and jump. So we're going to jump 2 and make your crown. So single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet. So this is how I remember it. I do a chain 2 and jump. So that means I'm jumping my 2 stitches and working into the 3rd. And then I'm doing a single crochet, chain 2, and crown. So every time I say crown, I mean I'm going back into the same stitch and making one of those crowns. So I do a chain 2 and jump into the center of that next head, or the 3rd stitch. I do a single crochet, chain 2, and crown. So that goes right back into the same stitch. Chain 2 and jump. Single crochet, chain 2, and crown. Chain 2 and jump. Single crochet, chain 2 and crown. It'll look like this as you work your way along, and what's good about remembering it that way is you remember to work into the same stitch. You remember to make your little crowns, because what you can kind of forget in this pattern is just do a chain 2, single crochet, and jump, so you don't end up doing your crowns. So when you're finished your row, just kind of go back and make sure there's a crown on each of these heads going along. So pause the video and I'll meet you when you get right here to the end. So I finished my last crown on my last head, and we just have this chain left. So we're going to always end our crown row with a chain 1 and a single crochet into the 3rd chain. So not the double crochet, we want to go into the top of our chain 3 right there. So finish off with a single crochet into the top of the chain 3, and that finishes your crown row. So now you're just going to repeat doing heads and crowns all the way along. Heads start with a chain 3 and turn your work. And then we just jump straight over into that very first crown. So the center of our first crown gets 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And the center of each crown all the way along gets 3 double crochets. No chaining or anything, just double crochets. So every crown, just the center of that chain 2, gets 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. Into the next one. 1, 2, 3. Into the next one. 1, 2, and 3. So just pause the video and keep working along, putting 3 double crochets into the center of each crown, working all the way along, and I'll meet you at the end of your row. At the end of your row, we're going to work into that single crochet. It's just on that hill, just at the edge of that slope. And if you put your hook in, you want to make sure you get 2 strands of that stitch on your hook. So wrap your yarn and 1 double crochet into that last stitch. And that finishes your head round. So now keep going, alternating, making heads and then crowns, heads and crowns, heads and crowns, all the way up until your square, you have completed 12 rows of heads or 25 rows altogether. So how you can count your rows, you can just count your heads, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And then you want to put crowns on that 12th row of heads. So at the end of your 25th row, your crowns, chain 1 and turn your work. We're going to make 1 single crochet into this very first stitch. Right here, 1 single crochet, and chain 1. Into the center of that crown, 1 single crochet. And now we're not going to make crowns, we're just going to do our jumping. So chain 2 and jump into the next crown, 1 single crochet, chain 2 and jump into the next crown, 1 single crochet, and you're going to do this all the way along. So chain 2, jump into the crown, 1 single crochet, chain 2, jump into the crown, 1 single crochet, and keep going all the way along the top of your square, doing a single crochet, a chain 2, a jump over to the next crown, and a single crochet. So pause the video and I'll meet you when you get to the end of your row. After your last single crochet into your last crown, chain 2, and into that single crochet at the edge, 1 single crochet into that stitch, the last stitch, and now chain 1, cut your yarn, pull your hook up and your yarn through, and snug that down to secure. Sew in your tails and you're finished. So So I hope you enjoyed making your square as much as I enjoyed making mine. I'd love to see yours. You can find me over on Instagram at Secret Yarnery or Facebook, The Secret Yarnery. You can also join our Facebook group, The Secret Yarnery Crochet Community. It's a great place to upload photos of your squares. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below and the notification bell beside that so you don't miss out on any more awesome tutorials just like this. Thanks so much for hooking along. We'll see you in the next video, and stay hooked.